Hey creeps, it's Cameron again, and welcome back to my channel where I talk about books, movies, writing, and all things spooky. So on today's episode of Library Macabre, I have my much anticipated bookshelf tour. Now, at the beginning of the year, I did a full library tour, just kind of going over the bookshelves on the surface. I didn't really dig into each and every single book and show you what each book was because it would have taken forever. But I did promise in that video that I was going to do a detailed bookshelf tour. This is going to be multi-part. Like, I don't even know how long this is going to be, but I'm going to go shelf by shelf. But before I go into that, I wanted to announce the winner of my giveaway for Fat Camp by James Sabata. I had about 70 entries total, which was quite a lot. I wasn't expecting quite that many, so thank you to everybody who entered. I used Google's random number generator to pick the giveaway winner, and the winner is Sophia Alexis Books. So Sophia, I will be contacting you very shortly to get your mailing address, and I will ship this your way. And there is one more thing I would like to announce before I get into the bookshelf tour. And it's kind of a big announcement. This is something I've been working on for quite a few months, and I've been very excited to announce it. So I think it's finally ready. I have been working on a Library Macabre Facebook page along with my buddy, David Dodd. He is a vintage horror book collector, and he is also a book designer, cover designer for Crossroad Press. A few months ago, I decided I wanted to start doing some cover scans of some of the vintage horror paperbacks in my collection because there aren't very many nice scans of these book covers online. It's really hard to find anything that's good quality. Some of these books don't have any covers available online at all. So I was scanning some of the book covers and posting them on Twitter and Instagram and the Books of Horror Facebook group. And my friend David saw it and he was like, hey, we should do a Facebook page dedicated to these book covers. And I had actually been thinking about that. I wanted to do a Library Macabre Facebook page where I could, post all of my usual Library Macabre stuff, but also post these vintage book covers. So when he suggested that, I felt like it was kind of meant to be. So he and I have been working really hard to get this Facebook page set up. We have been doing dozens and dozens of horror book cover scans in high resolution, and they look beautiful. We actually already have several book covers already uploaded, and today is actually the start of Croc Week, where we have a cover featuring a crocodile every single day of the week. I just thought since we're in the dead of summer, it might be a good theme to start out with. The Library Macabre Facebook page is now live, so if you want to go and give it a like, I will leave a link down below in the graveyard. Anyway, thank you for listening to all of my rambling. I'm going to go ahead and get into the bookshelf tour. So here is the very first shelf of my library. So in the back, we have some mammoth books of Best New Horror, and then we start into my vintage horror paperbacks, which are all in alphabetical order by the author's last name. So the first thing you'll see is that I have this book right here, just kind of sitting on top of the others. This is Ghosts and Things, which is an anthology. It doesn't really have an editor credited to it, so I thought I would just put it next to my mammoth books back here, since I don't know where else to put this alphabetically. And next, I'm going to remove all of the books on this first row so that way you can see all of the books in the back. So now you can see how I elevate the back row of books so that way you can see them over the first row. I have these little cardboard things. I don't know exactly what to call these, but I got these from the library. They were throwing them out because these were used in the packaging for the summer reading prizes, and nobody wanted them. Everybody was just throwing them out, so I took a few, and I decided they would work for my books, and they did. They worked out perfectly. But anywho, getting into the actual books, I'm going to start with the mammoth books first. Here we have the Mammoth Book of New Terror, edited by Stephen Jones. The 1994 Mammoth Book of Best New Horror, edited by Stephen Jones and Ramsey Campbell. The 1998 Best New Horror. The 1999 Best New Horror. The Mammoth Book of Best New Horror from 2001. Best New Horror from 2002, 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, skipping to 2009, and 2012. So I do have a few gaps in my Best New Horror collection, but I will fill them in time. Now moving on to the vintage horror paperbacks. Here we have Werewolves by Jerry and Sharon Ahern. 2 books by Katina Alexis, Scorpion and Souls. Wolfkill by Greg Almquist. The Force by J. Edward Ames. Here we have The Woodsman and Bloodright, both by Michael Faulkner Anderson. These are actually the same book. This is the UK edition, and then we have the US edition. Clawhammer by Paul Dale Anderson. Fiend by C. Dean Anderson. I Am Dracula by C. Dean Anderson. And I Am Frankenstein by C. Dean Anderson. Now moving on to V.C. Andrews, we have My Sweet Audrina, Seeds of Yesterday, Garden of Shadows, If There Be Thorns, Heaven, Dark Angel, Fallen Hearts, Gates of Paradise, Dawn, Secrets of the Morning, Twilight's Child, Midnight Whispers, Darkest Hour, Ruby, Pearl in the Mist, All That Glitters, Hidden Jewel, and Tarnished Gold. That concludes the first shelf. Here's a look at the next 2 shelves I'll be showing. On the back row of this shelf, I have Unfinished Symphony by V.C. Andrews, Music in the Night, Olivia, all 4 books in the Orphans series. So we have Butterfly, Crystal, Brook, and Raven, as well as Runaways, the conclusion to the Orphans series. Here we have a bind-up of all 4 books in the Wildflowers series, and the Wildflowers conclusion, Into the Garden. Next is Rain, Lightning Strikes, Eye of the Storm, The End of the Rainbow. All 4 books in the Shooting Stars series. We have Cinnamon, Ice, Rose, and Honey. And Falling Stars, which is the conclusion to Shooting Stars. And the final V.C. Andrews book that I own is Willow. And just so you know, I haven't actually read all of these. I don't know anybody who has. Moving on, we have Waterworld by William Appel, The Changing by V.W. Armstrong, 13 Horrors of Halloween, edited by Isaac Asimov, 14 Vicious Valentines, edited by a ton of people, Whispers in the Dark, The Vanishment, and The Matrix, all by Jonathan Aycliffe. Next, we have a classic cover, The Midnight Hour by Donald Bacon, Webs by Scott Baker, The Darkest Hour by Donna Ball, The Hellbound Heart by Clive Barker, Hardshell, a book in the Night Vision series, edited by Clive Barker, Twisted by Sue Hollister Barr, The Streeter by Scott Ian Barry, The Howling Man by Charles Beaumont, Jaws by Peter Benchley, The Quiet by Patrick Billings, Dead Time Story by Margaret Benchley, The Everlasting by Leonard Bishop, The Piper by Campbell Black, Pleasant Dreams by Robert Bloch, Mysteries of the Worm and All the Cthulhu Mythos Stories by Robert Bloch, and Strange Eons by Robert Bloch. Next is XY by Michael Blumlein, Snowman by Norman Bogner, Savage by Paul Borsden, Manstopper by Douglas Borton, Dark Satanic by Marion Zimmer Bradley, The October Country by Ray Bradbury, The Howling 2, and The Howling 3, all by Gary Brandner, Mr. Hands by Gary A. Bronbeck, and Coffin County, also by Gary A. Bronbeck. And lastly, for the second shelf, we have The Vampire Journals by Tracy Brary. And on this second smaller shelf, we have The Vampire Memoirs by Mara McCunniff and Tracy Brary, The Werewolf Chronicles by Tracy Brary, and Wolf Song, also by Tracy Brary. Inheritance by Owen Brooks. Next we have The Mutilator by Dana Brookins, Toomley's Walk by Crossland Brown, Child of Demons by Mason Burgess, and Blood Moon, also by Mason Burgess. Kahish by Nathan Butler, Gift of Evil by Elizabeth Kane Basili, The Vampire's Apprentice by Richard Lee Byers, Dark Fortune by Richard Lee Byers, and the last book on this shelf is Fear Book by John L. Burns. So that is the end of part 1 of my horror bookshelf tour, and I will be back very shortly with part 2. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Later, creeps. Hey creeps, thank you again for visiting my channel and for subscribing. If you would like to see more, I am on Twitter and Instagram at BookMovieGuy. I am also the co-creator of the Library Macabre Books Facebook page. Also, I am a horror author, so if you would like to read any of my work or check out any of the pages that I mentioned, I will leave the links down below in the graveyard. And lastly, I am on Patreon, so I wanted to use this time to extend a very warm thank you to all of these awesome creeps over here. Those are all of my Patreon supporters, and I wanted to say thank you so much, guys, and stay spooky.